Poppin' peoples, we are back. The Screen Guys are here to review a movie that at this point most of you have seen, maybe even twice, 3 times, 4 times I've heard. Dune Part Two.
If you haven't seen it, what are you doing, right? What are you doing with your life?
At this point, like, you're missing out. I got my man Peter Hatch, my oldest best friend, and hell of a filmmaker, and literally nobody has seen as many movies, I think, in my life as Peter. So always makes for great conversation, and love having him here to talk shop.
I'm a very critical guy, so
Yeah, but you're also very lenient in places where I'm like, what? I was totally expecting Peter to bash the hell out of that. So
oh well, I'm full of surprises.
honestly, and that's what keeps this show on the air.
Yeah.
So let's get right down to it.
So I saw it on day one in
Did you?
theaters.
Did you?
Yeah,
Cool.
and it's funny. I have a friend. We go to movies like kind of our friendship's based around movies, so we go every couple months.
Yeah.
And we just have had like every movie's been kind of a dud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this one, I'm like, I knew he wanted to see it. I'm like, hey, buddy, his name's Will. Will, let's go see Dune 2. I'll get the advance tickets. Like, there's no way this is gonna let us down.
A movie that's approaching 3 hours.
Well, it's funny, I would even say it could have been longer. I'm okay with long movies. I don't mind a movie if the length justifies it. And I mean, one of my, maybe we'll get into it later, but one of my, I guess, criticisms of the movie is that I thought that it maybe could have been longer, which is in a way praise too. So.
Right. I mean, I think on the topic of like movie length, like there's something to be said for a really nice tight 90-minute movie that like really is just fun the whole time. But if you're gonna make a movie longer, just make it worth my time. That's all. Like every minute should count. I shouldn't be doing edits while I'm watching the movie, being like, I don't think you needed that. I will say that Dune Part Two was worth the runtime, and I could have watched more of it.
It's a massive epic, so it's definitely deserving of a longer length, I think.
100%. And I was just talking to one of my friends who's a huge Dune head, and she was like, there is so much that they didn't fit into the movie, that they made adjustments to make it work. And I was like, would you say that this movie could have been 3 parts instead of two? And she was like, absolutely. Absolutely, they could have made a whole third movie.
What did you think about it? Like, what was your feeling about the movie?
Okay, so my feelings about it are kind of interesting because Dune Part One, I did not like. It took me like 4 watches to get through it. Like I kept falling asleep. Like I found it to be very slow. It was pretty, like it was beautifully shot. Um, but it was just such a slow pace. And because I'm not familiar with the world, it dragged, and I found it to be hard to get through the first time I saw it. I rewatched it right before going to see Dune Part Two, and I think I enjoyed it a lot more because I knew what was going to happen, so it moved a little bit better. But because of how I felt about Dune Part One, I didn't have my hopes up for Dune Part Two, not because I didn't think people would love it. I didn't know I would love it. And when I saw it in IMAX 70 millimeter, I was blown away. Like it was so great. And the thing I will say about Dune Part One is the last 20 to 30 minutes was great. And everybody I know who is a Dune head was like, that whole Part One was teeing up this incredible ride in Part Two. So just hang on to your hats. And totally delivered. Totally delivered.
I'm almost the exact same way with Dune 1. I saw it in theaters, and to me, it was maybe at first time I saw it, I thought it was maybe I was saying it was a 7 out of 10, with the score being so good that I said it was an 8 out of 10 just because of Hans Zimmer's score. It was such a powerful score. But you're right. In retrospect, like, sometimes time goes on and you watch a movie again later and you reflect on it. And I actually think it's a pretty strong 8 solid, in my eyes, because some movies out there I would like to say are more like a meditative experience, if that makes any sense. Like it's more you're sitting with your thoughts, you're sitting with vistas, something like a Terrence Malick film or something like the movie Nomadland with Frances McDormand. Like they're slow, they're making you think. They're not this kind of theme park ride that we've been accustomed to what a sci-fi movie is. Like that it's like bang, 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 like this beautifully nonstop, well-paced thing. where I actually love that Denis Villeneuve with these movies takes a big epic sci-fi big budget movie and says, no, I'm going to give you more of the slow or meditative experience, more of the almost spiritual, a little bit with vistas, and I really appreciate that, and it makes it feel more impactful for me. So yeah, I think I still have some issues with number one. But as a lead up to number two, I same as you, Saran. I went into number two thinking, I like number one, but I wasn't a massive I didn't massively love it. I really enjoy it, but so I kind of went in with a tempered expectations of, yeah, I'm sure it'll be good. It's gotten really good reviews, and it exceeded my expectations, and I really, really liked it a lot. I'll go as far as saying I think without a shadow of a doubt, Dune 2 will be nominated for the Best Picture award for the Academy Awards for this year, without a shadow of a doubt. It will be one of those
It would
10
be,
nominated films.
I mean, it would be completely crazy to not nominate it. And
What other 10
no,
films are that are gonna? I mean, we'd have to have an
exactly.
incredible year, or just it gets snubbed and forgotten because it's a March film. But
Right. I don't I think that when you factor in how big of a film it will be, like grand scheme at the end of the year, it will be one of the highest grossing movies of the year. So it's gonna be hard to ignore
certainly,
at all. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised or upset if it won. I mean, like we still got, about 9 months to go on the calendar. So there's plenty of movies that the book's still out, but as it stands, that movie is worthy of the praise it's getting.
I'll say as it stands, I keep a list going of my favorite movies of the year, and right now it's number one. And I will also say that Oppenheimer, which won Best Picture recently for last year, I like Dune 2 a lot more than Oppenheimer. So I agree. It could very well win Best Picture, and I'd be pretty satisfied with that. I mean, it's only April, so we'll have to see what happens with the rest of the year. But
We'll have to see what happens. But like, I was thinking, Return of the King, Lord of the Rings Part 3, that won Best Picture. And if that could win Best Picture, I think Dune Part 2 is kind of in that same world where it definitely could win Best Picture.
keep in mind,
Because it's just
Return of the King came out in I think it was December. And there's a huge recency bias when it comes to award shows of things that happen in the first half of the year are often kind of forgot about. And things that come out near the tail end of the year are more considered for awards. So I think that's something to consider. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes. But I would go as far as saying Dune 1 and 2 are kind of those like the big sci-fi movies of our era. And I don't think maybe people even quite realize it yet, but I'm not going to say it's as impactful as something like a Star Wars was in the 70s and early 80s, but it is that movie that young people and old people and everyone can kind of get on board and enjoy. It's getting universal praise. And I think it's something that in 20, 30, 50 years, we'll be looking back at as one of the great sci-fi movies in cinema.
hands down.
Hands
Absolutely.
down. And it is worth noting, you mentioned it, but Dune 2 has done very well in the box office.
It just crossed 600 million this
And
weekend.
from what
In
I saw, it did way better than the first one,
right.
which is something that I mean, the first one I think came out during COVID, so that's a little bit of a different consideration.
True. And there
But
was there was an HBO like home and home thing where or date and date. So people
oh yeah,
can watch it at home. So the box office for the first one isn't really representative of its popularity, I would say.
it's rare for a sci-fi sequel to do. I mean, it does happen, but a lot of times we see diminishing returns from on sequelitis, especially with the Marvel films. They're diminishing
Right.
very quickly.
Right,
But
right.
um, with Dune 2 doing better than the first one, yeah, it's a great movie. I can't recommend it enough. I love the art direction, the music, the action scenes. It's a great film. I even told my mom to watch it, and I said, Mom, I know you don't like these kind of movies, but go watch Dune 1, watch Dune 2. You can give some of your hours of your life to this. It's an impactful experience, and it's got this kind of I want to say like a mythical, spiritual feeling to it, like where something like the mysticism in Star Wars feels a little bit watered down and silly, and same with Marvel. They just play some choir music when they're picking up the MacGuffin or whatever. But in this movie, it really does feel like it justifies this kind of heavy mysticism, and it's just like a powerful experience to watch.
It's funny because in the first one, I found I didn't care about any of the characters or anything, and then the second one I cared so much. So it says a lot about the character development that they did between the two movies, and you really have to watch it as if it's one movie. I mean, it's 5+ hours of runtime is a lot, but for me, if a sequel can make me appreciate the first movie in a way I didn't, that's a huge win. I I honestly, and I wasn't going in thinking I would like it. Wasn't going in pessimistic. I was like, I don't know if this is for me, and I completely changed my how I feel. Like I now I'm
Complete
motivated to
your
go.
life.
Yeah, I mean now I'm motivated to go and read the books. Um, and the funny thing is, I tried reading the book Dune. I tried reading it years ago, and I couldn't get past like page 35. It's just there's so much world building, so much terminology that I wasn't familiar with, and I kept falling asleep. So it was tough to get through. But now having a world built for me, and I just have to kind of swim through it, I'm very motivated to go and read them. So whenever they do Dune Messiah, the third one, if they do, which it's rumored that it's gonna happen, why wouldn't it happen? There's so much money to be made, and there's stories that have already been put to paper. So the framework's there, and they should make it. Hopefully, I
They
haven't.
should. It leads up to it in the end a little. It kind
Yes,
of. When I finished the movie, I'm like, there has to be a third one now. The way it ends.
right. And the thing is about the next one, apparently it happens like there's a gap, so it's like 12 years later is where the
Cool.
next one picks up. And so Denis Villeneuve was like, I think before we even start talking about the next one, Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya have to age a bit. So we might not get it for a few years.
I'm
Uh,
okay with that.
I'm
I hope
totally
it's
okay.
good. I hope he takes it home,
Yeah,
finishes the thing.
yeah, for sure. It's interesting. Before we move on, I just wanted to say, like, it was supposed to come out in November, and then it didn't because of the strikes and everything, and so it didn't end up coming out last year. But had it come out last year, to your point about Oppenheimer, it could have really affected the Oscars last year. Like it would have won a lot, I think. It may have even
Right.
beat it may have
Point.
even beat out Barbie and Oppenheimer in the box office. It was
I
that
don't.
bad.
I doubt that. Just considering how it's done so far. I mean, you said it's 600 million worldwide, and I believe Barbie and Oppenheimer did over a billion.
Right, but that was at the end, and Dune's still in its first month, and it probably has more than another month of people going to the theaters to see it.
Yeah.
And
Who's
also, it's staggered in a way, in kind of the way Oppenheimer was, in that a lot of people want to go see it in IMAX, so they will wait to get good seats to an IMAX viewing. So and
There's
there's
something
a
about the
reason.
Barbie Oppenheimer mix though that got people really excited about going to the movies and yada yada. I mean, who knows?
We'll,
Who
we'll
knows?
we'll see where it lands at the end of it, but 600 million in a month is pretty great.
I don't
Uh,
see it beating Barbie's 1.5 billion.
no, I don't think so either. That's tough to top, but no, it's too far off. But
It's
you know,
also worth mentioning that just with Dune 2, it has a little more competition right now. I mean, Ghostbusters came out the week after or the few weeks after. No one cares about that. But also, King Kong versus Godzilla just came out with a really great opening in the box office as well. So it's got a little more competition in that blockbuster space right now in terms of revenue. But you're
you think
right.
it costs a billion?
It might come just shy of it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in like the 900s, which would be very good.
I was gonna say either way, the budget for this movie was 190 mil, and
Yeah.
so it's a smashing success. Regardless, at this point, it's a huge win. Huge win.
Oh yeah, and I think it did better than they maybe expected, and I think there's got to be I think there will be a third one based on the success of this and the just the hype around it. But I wanted to comment just on the way that the visual and special effects are done in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Where it just feels it doesn't feel like you're watching computer graphics. It doesn't feel like you're watching cartoons. And just there's such a good mix of practical effects and heaviness and real sets and real costumes and real hand-to-hand combat. And it just gives it this kind of weightiness that a lot of other sci-fi movies don't have. You kind of feel like you're floating, or it's cartoon, Star Wars, Star Trek, where this movie just has this kind of physicality and weight to the effects and the action that I don't know, it just puts me there a lot more than I don't feel like I'm watching actors in front of a green screen like I do some other films, science fiction films. So I really commend
Marvel
the
movies these
production
days.
design.
Yeah. Marvel movies these days, you're like, these are just people walking around a green screen, which kind of takes you out of it. It's too much. But
Yeah.
Dune really, I mean, they're literally in the dunes, and you're like, wow, this is really cool to watch. It's people making movies who actually care, know that they're gonna make a lot of money, but also want to do justice to the source material and to the fans. And that really came out because a lot of my friends who have uh read the books, loved the books, were so happy. It's so nice to see a movie come out and actually just makes everybody so happy. People
Yeah.
who were fans, people who are now fans who want to read more. Like it's very cool. And I totally agree with what you said about how it kind of is the Star Wars of this era. It feels like it. You know?
Yeah, it does. And I also just want to touch on Austin Butler. I thought was awesome. I just thought his character was just creepy in a way, and for how little screen time the character has, like it has this kind of impact. So some of the characters is really really cool.
Timothy Chalamet. I have never, yeah, sure, he's pretty, but I've never really seen what all the fuss is about.
Watch Call Me by Your Name, Serain.
To be honest, I didn't see that. No. It's
Well,
is that the missing piece for me understanding Timothy Chalamet?
well, that was kind of one of his breakout roles where
Yes,
him
I
and Armie
remember.
Hammer.
That was nominated for Best Picture too, I believe,
I
right?
believe so, but it's like a romance film with him and Armie Hammer that's just beautifully shot, really well acted. It's really quite a great film. And yeah, I mean, he just seems to choose good movies, and I don't know. I think he has a lot of star power.
I mean, that's not even debatable. He definitely has a lot of star power, but I'm talking about like actually as an actor, skill, talent, and not to say he doesn't. I didn't really see what he could do until this movie. I really was like, whoa, he has more range than I thought. Like
Yeah, I did feel like I didn't feel like this was like an Oscar-winning, amazing, groundbreaking
no,
performance for him necessarily. He held it down really great, I thought, but I do think some of the side characters like Rebecca Ferguson and
Rebecca Ferguson. Can we all just give it up for Rebecca Ferguson? My
yeah,
God, she's
he's
a
great.
she's
Uh,
amazing.
I even like Josh Brolin coming in. I love Florence Pugh's small role because I love Florence Pugh.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken had a very small role, but it's just
It's
kind of, it was
just
kind of
cool to
funny
see
in a
him.
way.
We didn't know who the Emperor was gonna be, and then the movie pretty much opens and Christopher Walken's the Emperor, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
Javier Bardem, I
Yeah.
thought was really
He's
good.
good in everything. Yeah, he's great in
There's
everything.
no real weakness in the performance, but I think with Timmy Shea, he had to kind of do the he had to kind of do the middleman role where but I thought he did a really great job.
He is the kind of the Anakin Skywalker of this world, kind of, where everyone's saying he's the chosen one. He's kind of just trying to survive, help his mother survive. He's also having these visions that he's trying to make sense of. There's no real guide for him, like, besides his mom. There's a girl he likes. There's so many relatable things. There's a lot of pressure on him. And he kind of just wants to fit in.
He had doubt over him being kind of the one where
And also it was
more, but he didn't have this like confidence of being like I'm the one the whole movie. You
right.
actually were guessing kind of like is the prophecy like is it real, or is he just rising to the occasion? It keeps it grounded and realistic in a way that doesn't feel like hokey magical stuff.
Oh, and also you're kind of like, okay, he's like he's also, it's like survival mode. Like he's kind of got a, is he playing mind games with everybody in a sense, not even to be diabolical, but to survive. So he kind of just wants to fit in. He wants to become friendly with Zendaya's character. He wants to just fit in, and they kind of make fun of him because they're like, "This is the Messiah, the prophecy," and he kind of is just like, "Yeah, I'm not the Messiah. We have skills. That's why we could like handle the poison, like all of these things." He's like, "I stop putting me on this pedestal. I actually just want to be one of you, the Fremen," and so even throughout the movie, I'm like, is he downplaying his stuff to make it work, or does he actually believe that? I don't know. And then in the end, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, like you shouldn't be on this channel at this point. But spoiler alert, in the end, the twist, the turn where he actually goes all the way, conquers, brings the emperor to his knees, and then kind of switches from this dude who wanted to lead the Fremen and let the Fremen have their world back. He's still that guy, but it's political, and he's like, "I'll marry your daughter," and blah blah blah, like yada yada. I was like, "Whoa!" I did not see that coming, and I didn't read the books, but also like Timothee Chalamet, how he played it, I thought he was one guy the whole time, and then he added dimension at the end, and I was
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was
Yeah,
wild.
it's like he you feel his development as a character, and
Yeah.
he rises to the occasion, I guess, where you're kind of not so sure of it. It's not obvious, but the way he does feels badass. And that kind of
Yes. Yes.
climax where he rises to the occasion, it's badass.
And it's like I'm like, oh, like the whole time I thought he was this like kind of young hero on the climb, and now I'm like, okay, is he doing what's right? Is there revenge? Is it power? Like he's kind of cast his love aside. The thing that he was having visions about that was kind of keeping him going the whole first movie and into the second movie. And I'm like, I don't know who the hell the guy is anymore. I honestly don't know whether I'm supposed to root for him or not, but it was badass. Like that was
It is badass.
awesome. Great writing
Yeah.
and great acting. Like really.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I do have a couple complaints about the movie, like a couple, it's not beyond criticism.
Peter, let me
Uh,
just say before you get going on that, Dune 2 has on the Rotten Tomatoes for anybody who cares about the scoring there, 93% on the tomato meter, 93% and 95% audience score. So it's
People like
so
it.
easy for everyone to talk about all the great things about Dune. I would love to hear some complaints.
Well, they're not major complaints. I mean, at the end of the day, I like to look at movies for what they are, not what they're not.
Right.
But I guess I just felt that the midsection of the film had some pacing not errors, pacing issues.
Right.
At one point, he's put onto a trial where he has to cross this desert, and they kind of just glean through that and don't even show you him. They don't really show him doing it. Like they show him starting to do it. They show Zendaya teach him the foot dance, and then it's just on to the next thing. And it feels like scenes were cut out of the movie. Frankly,
They were.
that's
They were.
that's they were. But I think that this movie could have been 3 hours and 15 minutes, and no one would have complained, and it would have been better for it.
For sure.
So I know there's a big wow, whining. Oh my God, movies are too long. But this is an epic, big budget, ensemble cast sci-fi adventure. I'd rather have a properly paced film than have a film being like, where are they now? Did that happen? Oh, now he's gotten to challenge. Where did this go? And it feels awkwardly paced when they build up those challenges, and then he's just already completed the challenge without even speaking to it. Some other issues I had with the regarding pacing was they seem to like fast travel. It's like they are going to this other group of I can't remember the terminology, like this other group of the clan somewhere,
Sure.
and he's just like already there walking into the mystical room where his mom got poisoned. Like it's like there's not any entrance to this, there's not a travel there, there's no entrance there. It feels kind of a little bit like they just fast traveled, and just something in between traveling there would have made sense. And the other major problem, and I know this is something that people who read the book complain about, is that in the book, you see that Rebecca Ferguson is pregnant at the beginning of the movie. And in the book, she has had her child before this climax takes place. In this movie, she's pregnant to the very end, which means either in space they have very long pregnancies, longer than our 9 months, but I don't think so. I think the implication is that this is a 9 month period that this takes place. And that to me really hurts the experience because I really like the idea that this movie could take place over years. I mean, he's got to like learn skills, fall in love with Zendaya, convince these tribes. They send a message across space to the emperor. The emperor gets the message, comes back. There's all this like political kind of things going on. And then at one point, it's just kind of like they send a message and, oh, he's here. Exactly what our plan was. Oh, okay. Like it just felt extremely fast paced
Rushed.
in a
Yeah.
way that I just felt the pacing felt off and I was in that theater ready for like I was in that into that slower paced meditative experience. I want to feel like it's an arduous journey, that kind of Return of the King, like, oh my God, Lord of the Rings, they climb the mountain, then they go here. Like I want to feel in the pacing and editing of the movie the arduous task they have ahead of them. And when those things are cut short and trimmed down, it feels like I'm cut short of that experience that they're having of this arduous, big, long-lasting political space battle, space kind of adventure. And it kind of felt like they got to a point at some point where they almost just went to the fast forward button. And that also sits poorly with me considering the first one is so seemingly slow paced. It's almost entirely an introduction. So I just kind of felt like I felt a little bit off about that. Like, oh man, like it could have been a really perfect movie. And that's one of the reasons I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10 is because just some of those pacing issues in my mind. And honestly, if you're not paying keen attention and if you're not able to kind of interpret the movie language to say, oh, he's got to cross the desert. Oh, he must have already done that because we're onto this thing. Like if you're not able to kind of interpret that editing, I can actually see a common audience member being confused and being lost and be like, where are they now? What's going on? And this kind of movie doesn't matter so much because it's spiritual and it's kind of this epic thing, but I think it does hurt the pacing and the logistical way you can follow the film with some of those pacing errors. But that's like pretty much my only complaint. I mean, I was gonna say, I guess, this is a very small nitpick, but where for me a 10 out of 10 film is something that uh either stays with me, like with the something in the theme or the messaging of the characters sticks with me. Nothing really sticks with me in this movie. It's kind of like, great, I had a great time. It's an adventure. It's over. That's it. Like I'm not actually considering anything. It doesn't feel like it's changed my perspective or my life or my thought process anyway. And then one of the other small complaints I had, and this is very minor, is that I feel like the action is where it feels real and heavy and subdued. At no point did I feel like the action was pushing action cinematography in new places where other action films, something like a Mad Max or Terminator 2, or like sometimes you watch an action film, you're like, whoa, the action itself was so incredible that I'm like floored by the action, or even like the first Matrix, or anything with Bruce Lee. But some of the fight scenes in this were very well done, but they didn't elevate to that 11 out of 10. You're pushing boundaries on what an action film is, and maybe that was the point. But that's just some of my nitpicks and criticisms, Rain.
To your point, I would say that the final battle between Timothy Chalamet and Austin Butler did feel kind of like they were just it was a duel, like it was like a light, like they were fencing or something. And that's kind of how the movie ended. So it kind of did
Yeah,
feel anticlimactic. At the same time, you could look at it like everything was stripped down to bare bones, and it was literally like me or you. And I think that's something that they did really well in the final that final kind of duel at the end of the first one. I thought that was great, and so the end of the second one didn't feel that way.
had a lot of emotional weight. It just didn't have the
Lot of emotional weight.
it didn't have like it didn't do anything for me that pushed the boundary of what I'm looking for. What the action itself wasn't like incredibly gripping and eye-catching. It was just kind of like well done. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Um,
I mean,
that makes sense.
you're absolutely right. I will say that moment in the middle of the movie where he figures out how to ride the sandworm
Pretty cool.
and every dude, that was epic. It was
Yeah, that was epic.
I felt it in me going like, what? It was tight. So like, it not a perfect movie, but that's okay. Like I definitely give it a strong nine too. Hard
Yeah.
nine. Definitely. And we've only seen it once. So I would totally go see it again. And like I think I'll enjoy it even more.
My favorite part, Strand, I gotta say, of the whole movie, this is a spoiler, is when he says to Florence Pugh, he's like, "I'll take her as my wife," and it just kind of shows he's just, he has taken his political role more important than his feelings for Zendaya, or
Zendaya.
what's her name,
Zendaya.
Johnny,
Zendaya.
Johnny, is it?
Chani, yeah.
Johnny, I don't think her name is
It's
Johnny. I'm
not
like,
even, but the thing is, it's not even a case of taking his feelings. That's why he says to her, I will love you till my last breath. It's more like, I have to do this. And
yeah,
my friend who's read the book is like, his mom talks to her and is like, he loves you. And they continue kind of being a couple, even though politically,
spoiler.
right. Yeah. But, like, and that's some of the beef that some people who are huge fans of the books have with how it ended.
She does pass him the sword, which saves the day, right?
Right, exactly. So,
So I
yeah,
thought that was really well done.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just that moment was just like it just showed like it's just such a snap moment where it's like he just jumps into like this political mode and you're like, were you thinking about this before, or are you just
It's shocking.
so rising to the occasion? And he's just like, it's just badass as
Was
hell.
this his plan the whole time? Like it was shocking. And that's why I was like, oh my God, I thought this guy was one guy the whole time, still trying to figure it out. And then by the end, I'm like, yo. And I still don't know. Like I still don't know, and
Mystery is an enigmatic character for sure.
exactly, and it gives us so much to think about in the years between now and whenever Dune Messiah comes out. So
And I
um,
just gotta say, if they make a third one, I'll be there on day one. Like I really want to see where this goes. I will be there on day one.
very exciting watch. Very exciting to actually sit down and talk to you about this, Pete. Been looking forward to it for a while. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the movie, if you didn't like the movie, please weigh in the comments and let us know what you think. And for the screen guys, I'm Serene, my man Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Always and forever, bro. We'll check you guys next time. Peace.
You get more out of life when you go out to a movie.